Hey, what's up guys? It's Tasty Meat Chunks. Thank you for all the support on that last video. I hope that there were some helpful tips there. I'm definitely going to start breaking down characters that I didn't have the experience for next for the future videos, but it's too early for me to really start giving a full breakdown of characters I haven't played for hundreds of hours. So for this week, we're going to be talking about just a general set of rules that are going to help you win more games, especially if you're new to the game. The first one is roll queue. There are a lot of people complaining right now that there isn't roll queue in Marvel Rivals. I've got some fixes for this. The easiest and best way to deal with there not being roll queue is to queue with another person who doesn't just main one role exclusively, and to not be that person yourself. You should be playing a handful of characters across different roles if you are frustrated that you're not winning enough games. You do not have to do this. You can just play Spider-Man every game. But don't complain about the 4 other DPS that are just playing DPS if you yourself aren't going to switch as well. The other benefit of playing with another player is that it allows you to stack team-up abilities and basically make it so that everyone is always doing their best. If you don't have another player, you should be trying to build your character, especially in roles where the stakes are lower and you can just sort of play whoever, around some form of team up. If you are not looking for which characters team up best with other players, you're kind of holding yourself and your team back by playing weaker versions of every character. Even if you do not get an ability from the team up, you will get access to a damage boost, healing boost, or max health boost by being an anchor in a team up. You can move this even further. Who is the ace on your team? Are they popping off? Use a team up that buffs the person on your team doing the best, and both of you will do better. It's also important to remember that the game is new. People are going to be ass at most characters in the game, and the people that have played the other betas are probably going to be a lot better. So don't stress it if you're having a lot of games where you're not doing too well, because you will be. You just need to find the right character pool. Notice I said character pool, not character. I do think this is a game where if you try and solo queue one role and one character exclusively, it will drastically hurt your enjoyment of the game. I'm not saying you have to be the guy filling every single game, but you should be trying to fill some games for other roles your team needs. The supports and tanks in this game are a lot more fun than you might first think. And to be honest, I don't know that there are many characters that I haven't enjoyed playing. The next thing here is some basic things to understand about the game, especially if this is your first hero shooter, or if you're having a hard time dealing with specific characters. I'm not going to go into a full counters breakdown for every character in the game. Last video was long enough, and I would like to go play more Marvel Rivals. So those will be saved for when we do hero breakdowns in the future. But what you do need to know is there's sort of 2 rock, paper, scissors in play currently. There is the more Overwatch hero shooter rock, paper, scissors, and then there's sort of a specialized DPS and tank rock, paper, scissors also going on in there. The first one is the simplest of these 2. As a general rule of thumb, melee characters are weak to flyers. Flyers are weak to shooting characters, and shooting characters are weak to melee characters. Now, this isn't a concrete rule. You are not screwed if you're playing Iron Man into a Punisher, but you should be playing him a lot more safe. On the flip side of that, you kind of want to be playing the opposite if the team is going heavy dive melee or brawl melee characters. We'll get into what that means in a second. Because you actually don't want to be playing super tight to cover in that situation, because that gives them room to sneak up on you and burn you down in air. Some characters right now, Iron Fist, kind of break those rules. But every melee character can deal with flyers, they're just not nearly as good at it as a sniper or Punisher or any ground-based damage character, except for maybe Squirrel Girl, but she's a bit more spam-focused. As for our more sniper-heavy characters that are good into those flyers, and just sort of shooting characters in general, their biggest weakness is usually mobility. Most characters in this game have an answer to something they're weak to, but it's going to be a lot harder to chase down a flyer or a melee character than it is going to be chasing down a shooting character in this game. This means they're very vulnerable to getting flanked, getting attacked by a character with high mobility, and they usually want to keep things at a distance. So playing around cover and your team is going to be your best friend if you are playing these types of characters. Now for the melee characters, pretty much every melee character in this game really has a solution to everything. They're kind of amazingly designed and really fun to play, but I'm also extremely biased because I'm a Magic man who spent $20 the second the game came out to get a skin for her. But for the most part, for the melee characters, you are going to want to look for squishier characters in the backline or a completely isolated tank. You don't really want to ever take the 1v1 with the tank in the front line unless you're supported with other characters and it's not actually a 1v1. Because while most DPS characters in this game, especially DPS melee characters, are very tanky, they're more of looking to take apart your backline and look for the squishies, specifically supports and shooting characters. The shooting characters in the background are the ones you're going to be looking for first, because most supports have some form of CC, which can stun you, slow you, push you off of them, or have some form of self-healing, which will make that fight take longer. It's important to also remember the supports in this game can kill, so they're also risky just on that basis. You are looking to find the most isolated person in the backline, take them out quickly, heal up, re-engage on the next. You aren't really looking for massive 5Ks and things like that, especially in modes like Escort. The main focus of melee characters, or just the fast characters in general, is you want to distract the back. The kills are the cherry on top. The rest of it is the important part. You're going for disruption. Just like the shooting characters are mostly going for spam and suppression, with fortifying an angle, and the flying characters are looking for disruption, and again, spam from the air. Now let's move into the more concrete rules the game has in general. Now, team comps haven't really formed for Marvel Rivals. In all of the betas I've played, there hasn't ever really been a concrete meta behind it, because team ups are usually strong enough that an individual player running a strong team up with an experienced duo or team can make a difference. So I would ignore basically any stuff saying what team ups and shit you should be going for, especially this early on. We will know that as time moves forward. But a general rule of thumb you can have to add on to that last rule of thumb is that there are realistically 3 types of characters in this game, much like other hero shooters. You've got your characters that want to dive, get in close quick, get out quick. Think Spider-Man, think Black Panther, think Hulk. These are characters that do want to get in close, but they don't want to get in close and stay there too long. You're looking for a disengage after getting a pick or some serious distraction or cooldowns out, not looking to stick around for a long time. Also think Venom. How the fuck did I forget Venom? The next set of characters on your list are Brawl characters. Brawl characters are usually pretty damn strong into those dive characters. In this game, Brawl characters are kinda confusing because in a lot of ways, they kinda also function like dive characters. But for the most part, they're built a bit more around a sustained long-term fight in the front line, not so much the hit and run tactics of a dive character. So these characters are gonna be more of your Groots. To an extent, Thor, but he's a bit of a Brawl dive hybrid, so it gets confusing. Don't worry about that. Magic, Wolverine. These are characters that kind of want to get in and stay in. That doesn't mean they're going to stay in forever, but a lot longer than a dive character. They don't explode. That's a good way to look. If it's a character that dives and explodes quickly, they're a dive character. If it's a character that's in the front line and just sits there never dying, they're a Brawl character. And the third set of these are going to be your poke characters. Your poke characters are primarily characters that want to keep both the dive and the Brawl characters at range where they do the most damage. Think your Widowmakers, your Penny Parkers, most of the supports in this game, Punisher, Hawkeye, anyone that sort of crumbles when they get in close are your poke characters. These characters are very vulnerable to dive and very vulnerable to Brawl if it gets in, but as long as they can keep that power position and that distance on the Brawl team, they will shit on them. Because the Brawl team usually is much more close quarters and slower, lacking the range to really deal with the poke characters. So now you got 2 triangles, there's some overlap, there's some not, but it gives you a bit more of tools to break down how a character works. Take the characters that you play. There's probably a lot of overlap in terms of what type of damage they use. Are they melee, ranged, or a flyer? Then moving past that, you can look at what kind of playstyle they have. Are they quick and want to get in and out? Are they tanky and want to sustain a fight, or do they want to keep the range? Based off of those things, go through other characters similar to them and try and find characters that do not match the same exact playstyle as your first character, especially if you're struggling to find a second character to play. Look for characters in other roles that maybe have some similarities, but also a lot of differences. Incorporate that with a duo with team-ups, and you will start dominating games. Let's say you love playing Spider-Man. The easiest second character to go for is Venom, because you still get to do the web swinging, but he's a lot tankier, still playing dive, just in a different role. And you can team up with Spider-Mans and do more damage, because you have more health. See what I'm saying here? If you love playing Magic, you also would probably love playing characters like Thor, because I love playing characters like Thor in Magic, or Captain America, some melee tanks to add into the mix. If you like playing characters like Hawkeye or Black Widow or Punisher, you probably would really like most of the supports in the game, because they do way more damage than you think and have a lot of actually interesting healing mechanics that let you keep doing the fun part, shooting enemies and killing them. No one role of character is that over dominant, and I've got one last tip for you. You really only need one of each role. You can absolutely make it work if you've got one tank, 4 DPS, 1 support, assuming the other team is also running some dumbass comp. But you should be looking for making 2-2-2 comps as much as you can. If you can't make a 2-2-2 comp, especially if you're one of the 4 or 5 DPS players kind of ruining the fun, I do have some recommendations for you that aren't just to swap tank. Those recommendations would be swap to some characters that are a bit tankier in the DPS category. Go for a Wolverine or a Magic. If it feels like your team doesn't have enough healing, go for characters with more mobility, more dive characters, and play around more health packs. Go for the Spider-Mans in these cases. And if those characters aren't working, that's when you should start thinking about swapping to the other roles. This game doesn't have role queue for a reason. You should try and push the limits of that reason as much as you can before you cave and start swapping to other things. However, you should still play other roles so that you can best pick around your team to make them the strongest they can be, even if that doesn't mean running a 2-2-2 comp. I know a lot of people are going to hear this and be mad and say that I am basically giving a pass for people to play dumbass character picks in a game that launched within a week ago, and they're right. People need to stop freaking out about people not playing competitively viable role comps, especially in quick play, in a brand new game for most people playing. I can find myself getting frustrated at other people, but then I hold myself back and go, there's a good chance this Spider-Man player just installed the game, maybe has never played a hero shooter before, and me sitting here thinking, oh wow, he really should know how to fucking build a strong team comp is insane. So my last tip is that take a fucking chill pill, people. It's not that deep. Let people play who they want and learn about the game through basic tips to sort of build out your character roster, and really lean on those team ups because they are fucking broken. Anyways, happy Monday. I'll be seeing y'all in game.